Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Xiao Ing with the Epoch Times. So we're at the live outside at the West Kowloon Court building again. And today, like very soon, we're expecting about around 3:15, the judge will announce the sentences of the two landmark Hong Kong Democrat cases. A mitigation hearing of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Regions versus 7 veteran Hong Kong Democrats had taken place this morning inside this building, and the 7 defendants, including Martin Lee, the father of Hong Kong democracy, and Jimmy Lai, a local billionaire who owns Next Media Group. The district court judges convict the 7 Democrats earlier on April 1st on the ground of unauthorized assembly charges. Here, just a brief recap of what happened this morning. The judge will decide on the sentences of the 2 cases of the 10 veteran Hong Kong Democrats today, and many Hong Kong citizens lined up outside of the West Kowloon Court buildings earlier in the morning, and the daughter of one of the defendants, Jamie Lai, came to listen in. Charles Whiteley, director of the European Union's Hong Kong office, said that today's trial is a landmark event involving many famous Democrats and peaceful demonstrations. The international community is very concerned about it, and many members of the diplomatic corps were also present. Cardinal Joseph Sen, the former Bishop of Hong Kong, came as well to show his support. And Martin Lee said as he walked into the court building, he said, "We will not give up," he said, and he added, "We will have hope if we continue our efforts." A reporter asked him about his health, and he said he was okay. And I spoke to former legislator Emily Lau, who said that she still had hope for Hong Kong. She said, "Never give up and never give in. Maybe there are consequences. Maybe some of us will end up behind bars, but we have to continue to fight." And Tuen Mun District Councillor Carrie Low doesn't think Hong Kong's electoral system before the recent change is fair and complete. It's worse now, he said, and the system has a lot of barriers and also an obstacle to screen out some potential candidates not supported by the government. He said, "I think the democratic system has completely collapsed in Hong Kong." He described Hong Kong's future as the weather today, quite grey and quite cloudy. He said he won't leave Hong Kong. He said, "This is our home, our family. We don't leave here because we stand up here and want to commit more to serve and save Hong Kong." Kerry also mentioned that there was no room to express anger or freedom of speech. Many people I spoke to this morning used the words pessimistic, grey and cloudy, and very, very angry. I think that's the current mood of most of the Hong Kongers to describe the outlook of Hong Kong or their state of state, their mind of state. And then Jimmy Lai's attorney, also a former lawmaker, Audrey Yu, has finished her statement, and used that the case of the unauthorized assembly on August 18, 2019 was different than an illegal assembly. He said, "There was no unlawful entrance of any venues. Lai was just walking in the procession. He didn't speak or play a leading role." You also state that the police didn't intervene that day, showing that the assembly was very peaceful, without even the need for the police to maintain order. She pleaded with the judge to rule a punishment without prison terms. Even if the judge decides on prison terms, you asked for a delay in implementing the prison terms. Because the August 18th and August 31st events were so close to each other, and that Lai didn't receive any warnings from the police. Lai didn't repeat offenses during bail, and you hoped that the judge would decide on both cases together. The attorney of Lei Choi-yan and Albert Ho has also finished their statement, and they argue that Lee and Ho's contribution to Hong Kong society. Another former lawmaker, one of the defendants, Margaret Ng, a barrister herself, make a statement on her own, and judge approved it. And this former lawmaker talked about her long service in Let's Go defending the rule of law, and that the rule of law should also be defended in the streets and community, not only in courts and legislation in the legislative chamber. She said, when the people in the last resort have to give collective expression in their anguish and urge the government to respond, I must be prepared to stand with them, stand by them, and stand up for them. Otherwise, all my pledges and promises would be just empty words. Margaret also described Hong Kong people are peace-loving even in highly emotional situations, citing the handover ceremony in 1997 was held without a hitch, and the protest against security law legislation in 2003 ended without a single window being broken. Another two defendants, the former lawmakers Au Lok Hin and Wang Yuzhong, will be sentenced in the afternoon after they plead guilty in February. And right now you can see there is confrontation between people who support democracy and those who's pro CCP, and a lot of people said they are paid to do so. And there's always the same scene happen whenever there's court hearing.
小孩看旁边爬来。
An ambulance just arrived. Don't know what happened. Maybe someone needs aid. So this is a report from the Reuters, and then just to update audience for some details regarding this case. The Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai and 9 other pro-democracy activists are expected to be sentenced on Friday after they were found guilty of participating in unauthorized assemblies during anti-government protests in 2019. It will be the first time that Lai, one of the Hong Kong's most prominent democratic activist who has been in jail since December after being denied bail in a separate national security trial, will receive a sentence. About 100 people, including foreign diplomats, queued outside the court early in the morning on Friday to get a seat for the hearing. Lai was found guilty in 2 separate trials earlier in April for illegal assemblies on August 18th and August 31st, 2019, respectively, and the maximum possible punishment is 5 years in prison. His repeat arrest have drawn criticism from Western governments and international rights groups who raise concerns over waning freedoms in the global financial hub, including freedom of speech and assembly. In the August 18th case, District Court Judge Amanda Woodcock found him guilty together with Martin Lee, who helped launch the city's largest opposition Democratic Party in the 1990s and is often called the former British colonial's father of democracy. As he entered the court on Friday, Lee said, "I feel completely relaxed. I'm ready to face my sentence." The other defendants also found guilty include prominent barrister Margaret Ng and veteran Democrats黎已還押逾Albert Ho, long-hair Leung Kok-hong, and Sid Ho, Ngo Lok-hin, and Leung Yu-zong. The later two had pleaded guilty. In her mitigation speech, Ng said the law must not only be defended in courts or the legislature, but also in the streets. She said when the people in the last resort had to give collective expression to their anguish and urged the government to respond, protect only by their expectation that the government will respect their rights, I must be prepared to stand with them, stand by them, and stand up for them, she said. In the second trial, the same judge found Lai and黎已還押guilty together with Yeung Sum. The August 31st clashes were some of Hong Kong's worst, with police firing tear gas and water cannons at pro-democracy protesters who threw petrol bombs. All three had pleaded guilty.黎已還押posted on Facebook late on Thursday that he expected to go to jail, but that his mind was free as the ocean and the sea. The 2019 pro-democracy protests were spurred by Beijing's tightening squeeze on wide-ranging freedoms promised to Hong Kong upon its return to Chinese rule in 1997 and plunged the semi-autonomous city into its biggest crisis since the handover. Beijing has since consolidated its authoritarian grip on Hong Kong by imposing a sweeping national security law, punishing anything it deems as secession, subversion, terrorism, or collusion with foreign forces, with up to life in prison. Supporters of the law say it has restored stability. Lai, founder of the Apple Daily tabloid, has been a frequent visitor to Washington, meeting officials such as former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to rally support for Hong Kong democracy, prompting Beijing to label him a traitor. Lai is scheduled for 2 more court mentions on Friday in the ongoing trial, where he is charged with collusion with a foreign country and a fraud case related to the lease of the building which houses Apple Daily. Early this week, the tabloid published a handwritten letter Lai sent to his colleagues from prison. It's a handwritten note saying, "It is our responsibility as journalists to seek justice. As long as we are not blind by unjust temptations, as long as we do not let evil get its way through us, we are fulfilling our responsibility." And he also wrote, "It is time for us to stand tall." Sure. This man is sharing his a poem, and the poem, I think it mentioned Chinese as 支那人. Like some people think it's like it's downgrading the Chinese, but he said it's okay. It's not. It's just It's a translation of Chinese. There will still be some waiting before the court will actually start the sentencing.
下啦，呢首唐中寫嘅詩啊，支那冇問題㗎，影咗佢啦，好冇？即係俾人睇啦。呢個英文㗎，支那冇問題啊，記住嚇。亦叫做支那人。第三句叫咩？支那弟子無言語啊，因為古印度我哋叫天竺，古印度叫我中國做支那㗎，支那冇問題㗎，影咗佢啦 ，send 俾人睇啦。我仔將個圖書館炒出嚟㗎，係冇問題㗎。 嗰啲冇讀過書嘅仆街先話支那有問題咋？點解你想不下咧？個巴唔家產冇讀過書，巴唔家產集中話支那有問題啊嘛！日本人講就有問題，因為日本嘅支那有隻豬嘅意思，乜嘢人講都冇問題。send 俾人睇啊！
He's just found a poem, like ancient poem from the Tang Dynasty, saying that Jina is no problem. He's just on the words, the wording. Is that? 話俾你聽啦。你讀書㗎啦。小學都可以入去做咩啊？係啊。我講翻嗰啲咧，再做啊，或者。 I think in general, the Hong Kong people are still very persistent in what they believe in, and because since there are so many court hearings, and there's always some citizens of Hong Kong pro-democracy citizens. They come over to the court and wait outside, and as you can see, there are vans, the police vans that will be taking these defendants back to the prison, and then just before they go, they would follow the van and then yell supportive words to encourage the people and to let them know that they are not forgotten. And these ladies, they were scolding the people like there's no rules and laws anymore in Hong Kong. And some of the pro-CCP lawmakers, they send their kids overseas, and then they're still doing bad things that harms Hong Kong. Is that Hong Kong belongs to the Hong Kongers, not to those rubbish. And the other lady said there's just no difference from the mafia. And they were talking about Salang, which is a cemetery in the near the border between Hong Kong and mainland China. They said in 2019 there are a lot of newly buried bodies. Usually, this is it's a cemetery for those who are unknown, like for those who had unclaimed body. So they suspect that these are the protesters being killed during the protests after they were arrested. Because people like those new tombs have no names; they're just a number.
你使乜咁嬲啊？今日係佢哋，明日係有一啲人㗎啦。唉，做人嘅嘢，大家收咗啲幾場，你估唔知道咩？話俾你聽啦，人哋知㗎啦，你估唔知咩？你使乜咁勞氣？唔使勞氣。香港市民就為維護呢班亞化嘅話俾你聽，香港係香港市民嘅，香港係你嘅，知唔知啊？你個佢哋冇份咩？有份㗎，佢哋知道㗎，點會唔知啊？係咪啊？5蚊，個個都有份嘅，係嘅啫，一個月有話俾你聽。
And there are two ladies just talking, it seems like talking to themselves, but they were actually scolding the police that we pay for your salary. And that they should defend Hong Kong instead of giving up Hong Kong to people. And she said, although there is no democracy while we're a British colony, but then the British gave us the freedom. And while we are waiting, I can brief audience about Hong Kongers' creativity, especially after national security law. As you see during the movements, anti-extradition movement, Hong Kongers said, "Be water." So as the Communist Party and the Hong Kong police escalate the force, the Hong Kongers raised the idea of be water. Instead of occupying a base or some space, they adopt a fluid and flexible style ever since, and their protests became more and more creative. Say, for example, voting with their money. Making money is quite a big theme in this dynamic financial hub, Hong Kong, and Hong Kongers start lending support with their money. In Hong Kong, there's a yellow economy. So yellow is the color of protest, and blue is referred to the pro-CCP color. So we call those pro-CCP people blue ribbon. And the yellow shop, or the businesses that help protesters or support freedom in Hong Kong, are known to have been retaliated by the government. And the most recent case is the Apple Tide chain department store. It's a yellow shop, and the owner, Mike Lam, It's one of the 47 Democrats charged in association with the Democratic primary election, aiming to win a majority in the Hong Kong electoral election. They did the primary last year, but then earlier this year, the 47 Democrats who participate in the primary were arrested, and now they're pending trial. This apple tie store were used as polling stations during the primary, the 2 days of the primary election, and that happened in the summer of 2020, which is last year. And the Hong Kong Customs seized about $400,000 worth of its goods last week, and many Hong Kongers shopped at the chain stores, 25 locations, and formed long lines stretching outside the store upon learning the news. So they queue up to shop to support, but they call it punishment. They said they punish the yellow shop. It's actually they will support the yellow shop with their money spending there. And then flowing style as well. On the first day of the Hong Kong national security law, many Hong Kongers protest individually on the street or walking in a group in shopping districts. They sometimes gather to shout slogans like 5 demands, not one less, or liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our times, which this slogan is deemed to be problematic with the government, so now they don't shout it directly. Or sing pro-democratic songs, but disperse timely before the police arrive. Then they might congregate again somewhere else. And during the assembly on August 18, 2019, the attendees adopt the same flowing style in Victoria Park because the crowd of 1.7 million exceed its capacity. And although the police did not approve the march, the police approved the assembly, but not the march. And then people came and went and marched to Central because they said it's too crowded and it's already exceed the capacity of Victoria Park. So they march out and then to Central as they left the park. And some have already talked about doing the same thing here. Actually, queuing up outside in the court, trying to get into court to attend the hearing is also one of the way the Hong Kongers will choose to express themselves, to express their anger, their concerns. And then blanking it also, like, since the liberate Hong Kong revolution of our time becomes a dangerous phrase that implicate the speaker to the national security law. So Hong Kongers create homophones or to use different Chinese characters for the same meaning, or use a picture in place of words. Eventually, they just go and holding a blank A4 paper, but everyone knows that what they're trying to say. And also reading the newspaper, window shopping, like making purchases, simply walking or reading a newspaper can be a way of protesting in Hong Kong nowadays. And after Jimmy Lai was arrested in August 2020, many Hong Kongers bought Next digital stocks and read the Apple Daily in public to lend their support. Hong Kongers holding a copy of the Apple Daily in public became a symbolic gesture. And of course, early this week, 5 hammer-wielding intruders broke into the Epoch Times printing press in Hong Kong. They took away the printing machine's CPU and then scattered construction debris on the printer's conveyor belt. And the Hong Kong Epoch Times had to pause its print edition for a few days. And today is the first day that a post-attack print edition is available. And Hong Kongers are showing their support by buying newspapers. And some more recaps from this morning. This is from the report of Chinese Hong Kong Economic Times. So before entering the court this morning, Lei Chut-yen, Sid Holt, Figo Chen, and others raised the banner of opposing political prosecution and protesting political repression. Figo is the current convener of CHRF, the organizers which organized the August 18th, 2019 assembly. And Figo Chen is this civil human rights front, since he is this convener of this group, Civil Human Rights Front, since October 2020, succeeding Jimmy Sham Samjigit. And this group was the organizer of the unauthorized assemblies. And Figo, in the question in the two cases, Figo Chan took the lead and shouted, "Political prosecution is shameful. Peaceful demonstrations are not guilty." He said, "I have the right to demonstrate without the approval of the police, and 5 demands, not one less. There is no mob but tyranny. Release all political prisoners." And later and followed, he said, "We support Hong Kong people to the end." He told the media that it was his duty to stand with Hong Kong people on August 18th and 31st of 2019. And he would face prosecution calmly. He hopes that everyone will continue to work together, in prison or not. The hope of Hong Kong lies with everyone's heart. He said, "Our heart will not die and will walk until victory." Lei Chut-yen also shared a song he listened to every night recently, "You Will Never Walk Alone," saying that Hong Kong people don't ever lose hope. He encouraged the Hong Kong people. As the lyrics say, "Don't be afraid of the darkness and go through the storm." Everyone must be full of hope in their hearts. If we walk together, we can be full of hope. Sid Ho, one of the defendants, also she said, "The government can keep us in jail, but they can't keep our conscience." And for the 2 defendants in the afternoon case, which Au Lok Hin had planned to plead guilty and Leung Yiu-chung had plead guilty, earlier today the prosecutor has argued that Au Lok Hin knew that the government opposed the demonstration and still let the participants out of Victoria Park as a member of the LegCo. And Leung Yiu-chung admit that he held a banner during the procession from Victoria Park to Central, and Au Lok Hin shouted, "I have the right to march," during the procession. So some details about the August 18th assembly. So on August 18th, 2019, the Civil Human Rights Front launched a rally in Victoria Park. The group estimates a crowd of 1.7 million people, and the group originally applied to the police to march from Victoria Park to Central, but the police only approved the assembly and object to the procession. And the group announced that due to the large number of people participating in the rally would be held in a flowing style. The police did not stop the crowd from leaving Victoria Park, and people marched to Central in the rain and dispersed peacefully at midnight. So on April 18th the following year, 9 people, including Martin Lee, were arrested for organizing and participating in an unauthorized assembly. The case trial began on February 16th this year, and 2 of the defendants, Au Lok Hin and Leung Yiu-chung, plead guilty. The remaining 7 defendants plead not guilty. The defense state that the defendants led the assembly people out of Victoria Park to evacuate the assembly people safely and orderly. So when the group had, this civil group had a meeting with the police in advance, it has stated that the number of people participating in the rally would exceed Victoria Park's capacity. And due to many people gathering, the MTR station near Victoria Park was packed, so the group invites some celebrities to lead the people to walk to other stations. but the judge did not accept the defense argument that the defendant led the gathering out of Victoria Park for public safety. She stated that the route and time were the same as the parade initially applied for in Central. And so the verdict cited that the defendant said, "I have the right to march with or without the approval of the police." Oh, by the way, the report is by Hong Kong Epoch Times. So early on, we mentioned that Barrister Margaret Ng, one of the defendants, made a statement on her own behalf, and the Epoch Times has obtained a copy of her statement. I'm going to read it out for you. And international society may not be as familiar with Margaret Ng as Martin Lee or Jimmy Lai, but Margaret Ng is also a former lawmaker in the LegCo, and she has been the Hong Kong legislator for 18 years. Before retiring in 2012. And here's the page 1. She said, "Your Honor, I'm grateful to Your Honor for allowing me to make this statement about my background and the personal conviction I have held in what I did. I was called to the bar in 1989, but my early training was not in law. I had indulgent parents who allowed me to spend 10 years in the University of Hong Kong and then in Boston to study philosophy. There I learned about rigorous intellectual honesty in the pursuit of truth and elevation of the suffering of mankind. It was a sharp change for me to switch to law in 1981 when I went to Cambridge to read for a law degree. Those were the crucial years of Sino-British negotiations over the future of Hong Kong. My generation were embroiled in finding a way to preserve Hong Kong's freedoms and original way of life after the change of sovereignty. This was so important to all of us that after I was called to the bar, I did not immediately start to practice, but took up an editorial post in the Mingbao Daily News, because I accept that it was crucial to Hong Kong's future to have a strong free press, and at that stage, I had some standing as a political commentator. I resumed my legal career in 1990, but in 1995, I was persuaded to stand for election in the legal functional constituencies. Your Honor, the legal profession, steeped in the common law tradition of civil liberty, did not believe in unequal elections, but they considered that so long as there was such a seat, they would not allow anyone to compromise the rule of law in their name. So I was elected as their representative to hold that office in trust for the people of Hong Kong. To use it to uphold the system under which their rights and freedoms are protected by law. I was charged with a dual mission: to do my utmost to prevent legislation that would harm the rule of law, and to safeguard the institutions that underpin the rule of law. At the top of the list was judicial independence and the administration of justice. Those were the tasks to which I had voluntarily pledged to carry out. It meant, first of all, working conscientiously in LegCo's committees. I served in LegCo for 18 years, including the year from July 1997 to August 1998 when I was without a seat. And for 17 of those years, I sat as chairman of the panel of administration of justice and legal services, which had oversight of policies concerning the judiciary, judicial provisions, and establishment, including the allocation of land and costs of court buildings, legal policies, legal aid, the organization of the legal profession, legal services, and legal education. Numerous issues were brought up, discussed, and resolved. Some of the work required search for novel dispute resolution. At the height of the heated dispute within the profession over higher rights of audience for solicitors, I put the matter before the Chief Justice and respectfully asked him to intervene so that the matter may be resolved and seen by all to be resolved on the public interest and not by seemingly turf fight. It was vital for the rule of law that the public continued to have confidence in the legal profession. The expansion of legal aid's supplementary scheme, assistance for unrepresented litigants, more user-friendly and helpful free community legal aid advice were among other examples for which extra effort had to be made to find solutions. Often there were setbacks. In 2002, when Audrey Yu, SC, was also in LegCo, we worked in partnership with NGOs on a proposal for a community legal services center to give people timely and useful legal advice. Although that's the second page of her statement, and I haven't received more, so we just stopped here. Jimmy Lai was also charged with 2 additional charges, including assisting Andy Lee to leave Hong Kong for obstruction of justice and conspiring with Andy Lee and others to collude with foreign forces in violation of the national security law. Andy Lee was one of the 12 people who was arrested by taken by the mainland authorities in Shenzhen last year. And Jimmy Lai was charged with... this is the latest development. Now let's continue with Margaret Ng's statement. So she said she was talking about working with the NGOs for a proposal for a committee's legal services center to give people timely and useful legal advices. And she said, although it was rejected by the government at the time, in due course the idea bore fruit elsewhere. I have found that frequently tact, diligence, and patience were what was needed, but at other times when a fundamental value was violated, strong statements and response were required. In June 1999, in the wake of the Court of Final Appeals landmark decision on the right of abode in Galing, the NPCSC issued its first interpretation of the basic law to overturn the court's decision. This shocked the world's faith in the power of final adjudication of the court. In protest, on June 30th, I and over 600 members of the legal profession went on a silent march and stood in quiet respect and in solidarity in front of the CFA building, then on Battery Path, to mark our unswerving support for the court in the critical hour, so that the community may not be demoralized. Your Honor, the task in the defense of the rule of law also meant commitment to the process of lawmaking. I devote a great deal of my time to vetting bills. It is recorded that I had worked in 155 bills committees. It is vital to the rule of law that the laws passed by the legislature are sound, right-based, and measure up to the high standards. For judges are bound to apply the law as it is, not as what they would wish it to be. Lawyers are in a better position than most to know how a piece of legislation would work or would not work. When it is come to be tested in the courts. In this, I work closely with the profession, to whom I will always be grateful. We did our best to see to it that rights were not inadvertently or unnecessarily compromised. The law should give protection to rights, not take them away, especially in Hong Kong, where structural democracy is still absent. The people relied on the law to protect them, and the courts are the ultimate arbiter of the law. We are mindful that when the court applies a law which takes away fundamental rights, the confidence in the courts and judicial independence is shaken, even though the fault lies in the law. With a judge who applies it and that which strike at the foundation of our rule of law. Your Honor, the importance of that duty was driven home to me by the words of a distinguished judge, Associate Justice Anthony Kennedy of the United States Supreme Court, as he then was when he came to Hong Kong at the invitation of the then Chief Justice Andrew Lee, to give a speech to the judiciary and the legal profession on February 8, 1999. He was deeply moved by the challenges lying ahead of us and the important role of an independent judiciary. He submitted, one requisite for judicial independence is that judges have the jurisdiction, the right, and the official capacity to decide all matters susceptible to judicial resolution that are necessary to ensure liberty and human freedom. If a judiciary does not have jurisdiction to this extent, then the members of the bar and the members of the larger society must continue to press to expand the jurisdiction. This is vital, because if the bar and the society seem indifferent to a too narrow judicial charter, there is a risk that the judiciary will in fact or perception aid and abet a larger scheme to deprive persons of their liberty. Those are strong words, Your Honor, but I recognize their authority, and I had ever taken them as marking the ultimate loyalty a barrister owns to judicial independence. Your Honor knows that there is no disrespect to say that the defense of the judicial independence is not for the benefit of judges themselves, but so that they can be in a position fearlessly to uphold the rule of law. The defense of the rule of law is a two-way street. I believe that the representative of the legal profession in LegCo has a duty also to listen, to consult and explain the law to the community, to alert people to their rights and obligations, to clarify what is obscure, to reduce bewilderment, to invite them to voice their concerns and point out errors, to address those concerns with sincerity and represent them forcefully to the government. Where the needs cannot be addressed through the law, to work with them towards other solutions. One of the ways for me to keep in touch with the public was to write articles to the local press in plain language accessible to the general reader, for everyone ought to understand the law under which he lives. Throughout those years, and even up to now, I have never abandoned that exercise. Less frequently, I publish academic articles and contributions to academic forums, particularly on matters in need of law reform. Your Honor, working with the government in LegCo had impressed upon me that the rule of law is not just about the law, but equally about governance. For laws are made for the peace, order, and good governance of Hong Kong. Laws that protect rights tend to win the people's trust in their government, and trust facilitates good governance. So elect representatives have the duty to speak up to the government of the day, to advise and counsel, to admonish and to warn constantly. Do our law take right seriously? The law is not perfect, and lawyers know more than anyone else how imperfect the law is. So why should people respect and obey the law? There are, of course, many answers, but the answer I gave myself is this. We may ask people to obey the law if it is the best approximation to justice, which implies that we are duty-bound to listen to criticism of the law and make sincere efforts to make the law better and correct mistakes as much as possible. Justice is the soul of the law, without which the rule of law descends to the level of rule of force, even if it is forced by majority. In the course of this trial, Your Honor's attention was drawn to a debate on the POO in LegCo in December 21st, 2000. In that debate, I pointed out that the defects existing in its provisions, they are defects which had long troubled the legal profession. I warned the government that we must seriously consider reform if we were to avoid the law being disobeyed in desperation. Someone in a panel discussion had raised the issue of civil disobedience, and the Secretary of Security had called it a threat. But it need not to be taken as a threat, but should act as a warning or reminder. I urge the government not to shut out rational discussion for reform, because by its recalcitrance, the government was in danger of creating the very condition which made civil disobedience inevitable and justifiable, something which none of us wish to see. Those years in LegCo had repercussions for me for life, because Your Honor, defending the rule of law means we ourselves must take right seriously, and that is a lifelong endeavor. There is no right so precious to the people of Hong Kong as the freedom of expression and the freedom of peaceful assembly. Not only is the freedom to speak the truth the core of human dignity, it is also the last safety valve in a democratic society, as remarked by our illustrious judges repeatedly. Respecting those rights is also part and parcel of defending the rule of law. I have learned that the rule of law not only has to be defended in court, or in Letchgo, but also in the streets and in the community. Your Honor, I have spoken countless times in Letchgo, but I also realize that it is not good enough for me to make speeches in beautiful words and measure dignity in the precinct of the Letchgo, shielded by the privilege of absolute freedom of speech and debate and immunity from legal action. When the people in the last resort had to give collective expression to their anguish and urge the government to respond, protect only by their expectation that the government will respect their rights, I must prepare to stand with them, stand by them, and stand up for them. Otherwise, all my pledges and promises would be just empty words. Your Honor, the Hong Kong people is a peace-loving and well-disciplined people. Their resolute self-restraint, even in highly emotional situations, has been proved time and again. In the critical hours of the handover between the message stopped, so we'll just wait for the other parts of the speech to come in. So she was talking about that Hong Kong people are very self-restrained and highly, even when it's a very unstable situation. So she mentioned, so in the critical hours of the handover between June and July 1st, 1997, the great event passed without a hitch. In the march of 500,000 on July 1st, 2003, not a single pane of glass was broken. Even in 2019, when over 1 million marched on June 9th and over 2 million marched on June 16th, the peace and good order of the massive crowds astonished and won the admiration of the world. And in the incident of the present trial, this was demonstrated again by the estimation of the organizers. Over 1.7 million participate in the day's event. But whatever the exact figure, the huge and dense crowds in and around the venue, the resolute patience with which the crowds wait in the pouring rain were captured in undisputed footages preserved for all posterity. The number and the perseverance spoke volumes for the intensity of the feelings in the community, and yet the self-restraint was for all to see. It was not disputed even by the prosecution that the event was entirely peaceful and orderly, without any untoward event. The crowd had kept faith with the organizers who enjoined them to be peaceful, rational, and non-violent. At much time, we cannot be seen to abandon the people. At such time, we cannot be seen to abandon the people, but must stand side by side with them, in the hope the peace may prevail. Thus, the positive effect of the peacefulness of that demonstration was acknowledged by the CE, Mrs. Carrie Lam, 2 days later, remarking that it would facilitate dialogue between government and the public. In the event, the dialogue on that occasion did not continue for long, but it was a step in the right direction. I believe we should nurture hope and continue as Justice Kennedy urged upon the legal profession gathered together in that distinguished company. You must speak reason to your litigants. You must speak justice to society. You must speak truth to power. Your Honor, I came late to the law. I have grown old in the service of the rule of law. I understand Sir Thomas More is a patron saint of the legal profession. He was tried for treason because he would not bend the law to the King's will. His famous last words were well authenticated. I beg to slightly adapt them. I stand the law's good servant, but the people's first. For the law must serve the people, not the people the law. Your Honor, please permit me to thank my counsel. Their tireless dedication and excellence have made me proud to be a member of the bar. This is my statement. Thank you, Your Honor. Dated the 16th day of April, 2021. So this is Margaret's statement. So I can also brief audience about the Andy Lee, Lei Yuhin, which was mentioned in Margaret Ng's statement. And then, of course, the latest update was that there are 2 more charges for Jimmy Lai for assisting Andy Lee to leave Hong Kong for obstruction of justice and conspiring with Andy Lee and others to collude with foreign forces in violation of the national security law. And Andy Lee is one of the 12 Hong Kong youths who were crossing the South China Sea en route to Taiwan in a bid to obtain political asylum there, and were intercepted by the Chinese Coast Guard around 9 a.m. on August 23rd last year on the way from a tiny Hong Kong fishing village to Taiwan. They depart after 7 a.m. and the CCP has said that the boat intruded into the mainland waters and was captured for illegal for illegal border crossing. The specific location of the arrest is still under dispute, and the 12 Hong Kongers, now referred to as the Hong Kong 12, have been detained in Shenzhen Yantian Detention Center for over a month, and their arrests have been formally approved. And the families and the lawyer hired by the families had no access to them. The majority of the 12 have applied for bail, but their applications were denied. And in October 2020, activist Owen Chow showed that based on public flight records, Hong Kong government planes circled over the 12's departure area en route for hours that morning. According to the Hong Kong police, the group reached the limits of the city maritime jurisdiction in less than 30 minutes. And the Hong Kong legislator Eddie Chu hired a boat in late September to retrace part of the Hong Kong 12's journey. The Wall Street Journal reported that he set out in the same low tides and slow winds as August 23rd, and he had a choppy journey, even though he traveled at a slower speed. Chu said, at one point, my boatman said to me, less than 30 minutes was very fast and dangerous for someone new to boats. In his interview with Today with Sarah last year, Eddie Chu gave 2 possibilities. One is that the Hong Kong government knew all along but decided not to arrest the 12 people at the time of departure. Instead, it waited until they exit the Hong Kong waters for the mainland Coast Guard to arrest them. Another possibility is that the 12 were intercepted in the Hong Kong waters and were escorted to mainland waters for capture. Both scenarios point to the collaboration of Hong Kong government and the central CCP government. Chu also said that the Hong Kong chief executive proclaimed herself as the Hong Kong mother. The collaboration between Hong Kong and CCP would be the biggest betrayal. Recently, Andy Lee returned to Hong Kong in March this year, so it's last month, after serving the 7 months prison term in Shenzhen. On March 24th this year, he was charged with three counts, including conspiring to collude with foreign powers in violation of the national security law. The prosecutor said that he worked with Jimmy Lai and others to advocate for international sanctions on Hong Kong. And earlier this month, on April 7th, Andy Lee attended a hearing at the same court building we're here today. Okay, the sentence has been delivered. This is the latest. Jimmy Lai has been sentenced to 12 months, 12 in prison, and later again 12 months. Margaret Ng 12 months. Sit Ho 8 months. And Ngo Hong long hair for 18 months. Okay, this is all we know for now. And back to Andy Lee, one of the Hong Kong's 12, and the person mentioned in Jimmy Lai's additional charges. In the press release in September last year, the family shared a bit more of Andy's story. They said Andy has not always been a keyboard freedom fighter. He is a young man with a big heart, many interests, and an exceptional talent. He is a self-taught programmer and has established a successful IT business. They're shouting the slogans, 5 demand, not one less. They said there's no thugs, only the tyranny, and then they demand to release all the political, the conscience prisoner. Raise your hands, raise your arms. And people is issuing warning. They said they are illegally assembly together outside the courts and ask them to disperse.
What's happening?
He's asking the cops.
有結果啦！
我有 announce。The police is issuing warning, saying that if they shout slogan together, it's already some form of assembly. So ask them to disperse. And the crowd was questioning the police that the pro-CCP crowds are also assembling. So how come they don't ask them to disperse? And then I heard that the pro-CCP side, they're opening up champagne to celebrate for the sentencings. So I repeat the sentence that they got. Jimmy Lai is 12 months, Lei Chao-yang 12 months, Margaret Ng 12 months, long hair Leung Kwok-hong 18 months, Sid Ho 8 months, and Albert Ho 12 months, Leung Yu-zhong 8 months. And Martini is 10 months. This is the latest update. So this is a preliminary result that we got. So we heard that there could be some of them may have the sentence to be carried out later, not to be carried out immediately. So I think we will update our readers on our website later on when the final formal records are out. So we're outside the West Kowloon Court building, and the The sentencing has come out, although we still need some to wait for the final, for it to finalize, because there is still some a part of the sentencing is not clear yet. So whether if all the charges for all the person will be carried out immediately or not. So this morning in this court, there is a mitigation hearing of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region versus 7 veteran Hong Kong Democrats, and then the 7 defendants, including Martin Lee, the father of Hong Kong democracy, and Jimmy Lai, a local billionaire who owns Next Media Group. And the district court convinced convict the 7 Democrats earlier on April 1st on the ground of unauthorized assembly charges. The assembly occurred on August 18, 2019 in Victoria Park, and according to the organizer, the Civil Human Rights Front, 1.7 million people attended the event, roughly a quarter of Hong Kong's population. And the initial application, including a rally and a march, but the police approved the rally and not the march. And the gathering and attendees marched from Victoria Park to Central and dispersed peacefully at midnight. And the unauthorized assembly charges are about the 7's participation in the procession from Victoria Park to Central. And last year, April 18th, these 9 Democrats were arrested, and trial began in February this year. And 2 of the Democrats, Au Lok-hin, 33 years old, and Liang Yuzhong, 67 years old, are out of the 9 plead guilty. And then 7, and that's the 7 in the mitigation hearing this morning, have plead not guilty. The mitigation hearing is a procedure that allows the accused person or his lawyer to tell the court matters that may persuade the court to impose a more lenient sentence. The court may call for more reports before it decides on the sentence, but obviously today, as some of the legal experts already expected, 12 to 18 months. A majority of them got 18 months, but Leung Go-hong, long hair, got the longest sentence of 18 months. The maximum possible sentence for the charge is 5 years. And then all the 7 Democrats in the mitigation hearings are in their 60s or older, Martin Lee being the oldest. And he got 10 months. In addition, so Margaret Ng is 73 years old, and Lei Choi-yan is 64, Albert Ho 69, Leung Go-hong, 65, and Sid Ho 66. Okay, we got the latest confirmed sentencing. Jimmy Lai and Lei Choi-yan will be in prison for 1 year, 12 months, and Leung Go-hong, long hair, in prison for 12 months. 18 months. Sid Ho, will be in prison for 8 months, and Oh Lok Hin in prison for 10 months. Margaret Ng and Albert Ho will be in prison for 12 months, but got a probation of 2 years. And Leung Yu-zhong got sentence of 8 months, but probation for 1 year. And Lei Chiming, Martin Lee got sentencing for 11 months, probation for 2 years. We're just going to the other side of the court building, but it seems like they are just waiting for the confirmation of all the details of the sentencing and make sure that are all correct. So there's a crowd there, and you can still see the Grandma Wong with her flag. And all have been sentenced to immediate detainment. So they still have to be imprisoned.
Huh?
So although some of them got probations, but because the court order immediate imprisonment, so all of them will have to go to prison immediately, even without the probation, with the probation.
Go up there. You've got to do a temperature check on the floor.
That's what?
You've got to... You've got to go inside.
行咗出邊嘅，行咗入嚟
你冇參加到？我要去嗰度剪啊！佢頭先話呢度嗰啲嘢肯定要有4個人嚟嘅，要租隊market 同埋邊啊？佢話佢出嚟嘅話咧，唔知幾點出嚟，點出嚟可以啲？
All 3 you representing Jimmy Lai just came out. Audrey Yu just came out, but she did not comment.
Take this and stand somewhere else. Okay? I don't need them right here. I can give you. You just need to hear what they say. So no. So you can take this. Sure you can. Just keep out of the cameras way, that's all. You can have a lot of them.
我哋睇到咧係李卓人嘅代表律師啦，但係先兩日咧已經開始喺庭上面一齊陳詞。咁佢有提到啊，就係呢個818案咧啱啱有啲判斷啦，佢咧就希望法官咧可以考慮翻整體嗰個量刑原則，將咧呢個831案被告嘅控罰刑期咧，同佢哋喺818案裏面嘅控罰刑期咧執行。不過咧呢個暫時咧就係代表律師嘅陳詞啦，需要睇翻咧係法官咧最終個決定咧係處理。
So right now, usually it's kind of slow after the sentencing. Then they have to check everything if everything is all right, and then those defendants will be taken to the prison via the police van. It's梁耀忠came out. So here's a brief recap of today's sentences. Jimmy Lai was sentenced for 12 months. Margaret Ng and Albert Ho were sentenced to 1 year as well as with 2 years of probation. Martin Lee was sentenced to 11 months on probation for 2 years. Others are sentenced between 8 to 10 months. And here are some international support comments gathered by the Hong Kong Watch. International parliamentarians condemned today's sentencing and imprisonment of the most moderate and distinguished pro-democracy activists. Today, authorities in Hong Kong have sentenced 9 prominent pro-democracy activists for taking part in peaceful protests in August 2019. Including the father of Hong Kong's democracy, Martin Lee, the owner of Apple Daily, Jimmy Lai, and international barrister Margaret Ng. The 9 pro-democracy activists, which span the generations, have received jail sentences and suspended sentences, with Jimmy Lai receiving 12 months, Lei Chai-yan receiving 12 months, Leung Kok-hong, long hair, receiving 18 months, Ngo Lok-hin receiving 10 months, and Sit Ho receiving 8 months in prison. Margaret Lee receiving 12 months suspended sentence. Martin Lee receiving 11 months suspended sentence. Albert Ho receiving 12 months suspended sentence, and Lang Yu-jung receiving 8 months suspended sentence for the charge of unlawful assembly. UN Special Rapporteurs for Human Rights have previously called for the Hong Kong government to withdraw the public order ordinance, which allows authorities to criminalize peaceful protests, describing it as an assault on freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. A group of international parliamentarians led by Hong Kong Watch patrons and the last British governor of Hong Kong, Lord Patton, have responded to the sentencing of the prominent pro-democracy activists. Their comments follow calls from over 100 UK MPs for the sanctioning of Hong Kong officials. UK Lord Patton of Barnes said, "The CCP's comprehensive assault on the freedoms of Hong Kong and its rule of law continues relentlessly. This week, we have witnessed some of the most distinguished of the city's peaceful and moderate champions of liberty and democracy placed in Beijing's vengeful sights. The CCP simply does not understand that you cannot bourgeon and incarcerate people into loving a totalitarian and corrupt regime. While Hong Kong's values are attacked by the Communist Party, the regime is also careful in its attempt to safeguard the use of the city as a secret means for the family and friends of Beijing's leaders to store away the proceeds of their corruption. All those who have conniving at destroying the Hong Kong loved by the world will be remembered in shame, even as in due course they scurry off from Hong Kong clutching their foreign passports." UK Stephen Kinnock, MP, said, "Today is a dark day for democracy, free speech and liberty in Hong Kong, but nevertheless, the 7 brave individuals who have been sentenced today are an inspiration to all of us. By standing strong and united against the authoritarian bullying of the Chinese government, they have set an example that democracies around the world would do well to follow. U.S. Senator Mitt Romney said, the Chinese Communist Party continues to impose its authoritarian grip on Hong Kong, and the imprisonment of pro-democracy leaders is just the latest in a long history of their repression and censorship. We call for the immediate release of Jimmy Lai, Lei Chao-yan, and other activists sentenced today and stand with the people of Hong Kong in their fight for freedom and democracy. The administration should work with our allies and partners to support the people of Hong Kong and impose meaningful sanctions on the CCP. U.S. Congressman Amy Barra said, I join parliamentarians from around the world in condemning the sentencing of these important and brave Hong Kong pro-democracy activists. Today's imprisonment continues the CCP's full-on assault against the region's freedom and promised high degree of autonomy. The United States Congress stands united in our support of freedom, democracy, and justice for the people of Hong Kong. U.S. Congressman Tim Burchett said, imprisoning these brave men and women for unlawful assembly exposes the sheer injustice and totalitarianism that runs rampant in the Chinese Communist Party. They aren't even trying to hide it anymore. The CCP needs to realize that the world won't stand for these morally bankrupt actions. Canadian Senator Leo Hosako said, what we see happening before our very eyes are the dismantling of freedom and democracy. This is exactly what the national security law was designed to do, to completely silence dissent. Canada must not only unequivocally condemn this tyranny and oppressed behavior, we must also impose Magnitsky sanctions and do all that we can to provide refuge to those courageous enough to take on the communist regime of China. Canadian MP Jenny Guan said, today are the sentencing of veteran democracy activists such as Martin Lee, Jimmy Lai, Albert Ho, Lei Chao-yan, Margaret Ng, Yang Sum, among others, for standing up for the freedoms that were promised to all Hong Kongers and the international society by the Chinese government. The heart of Hong Kong's one country two system has been pierced with a death nail. The sentencing of these freedom fighters marks a dark day where the Pearl of the Orient has lost its soul. Canada and its allies must unite and redouble every effort to support of the people of Hong Kong. Canada must immediately act to bring in asylum measures for Hong Kongers who fear political persecution. We must also work with allied countries to form a strong, unified response and demand accountability from China. The Sino-British Joint Declaration is a legally valid international treaty registered by the United Nations, which China has the obligation to uphold. Breaching the promises of the treaty cannot continue without accountability and consequences. Canadian Senator James Munson said, locking up democratic voices of freedom will never silence a thirst for a free society. The jailing of Jimmy Lai and Lei Chao-yan, who have spent their lives speaking the truth and shedding lights on the ugly face of authoritarianism, is in itself criminal. So these are some of the international response regarding the sentencings today of the important Democrats in Hong Kong, pro-democracy Democrats.
got 37%, so hopefully I give Kerry the table at 2分鐘。
好，
我公司什么？
Where do you want to go? We can reduce this. No use. No use.
我知啦。有兩個，因為第間公司有兩個一齊咁。
喺呢度，OK，喺呢度掛。
Okay, so can you tell me what's your name and what you're doing? Why are you here?
Okay, my name is Phil. I'm myself a host of a media program. So I'm here to support all these pro-democracy camps leaders because I think it is really ridiculous today for the judgment today because. Sorry?
The sentencing of...
The sentencing, yeah, and all the sentencings, yeah. And because I think they're actually, if you look at those what happened in August 18th, 2019, because they were just helping people to evacuate from the valley in Victoria Park. But at the end, the police and judicial departments sued them, and they were convicted of this kind of crime, so-called holding unlawful assembly. They were just helping people to evacuate. Why they were doing this? Because the police did nothing on those days.
And they did not stop them.
And they did not stop them at all. So why now they sue them? I think this is totally ridiculous. And And I think the rule of law in Hong Kong is totally dead. Like before that, it wasn't like this, you know. Like people, the courts will look at what they did and will think about it. And then now there is no other consideration but to follow the Beijing script. I think
there's no rule of law.
No rule of law, because the Beijing. I think personally, I think that the Beijing has order, like to put these people in jail.
So how do you see the future of Hong Kong?
Doom. But we will not give in. We will not give in. We will fight. We will still fight as a citizen.
Lately there probably another wave of migration to other countries. So have you considered this, or?
No, I will not. I will stay.
Why?
Because this is my place. I'm not the one who live. Those people who came in and took our right, they are the person who have to live. I'm not the person who lives.
How do you feel? Like, do you feel angry, upset?
Angry, of course. Upset, of course. But we have to keep calm and carry on. We have to unite ourselves and carry on.
Where do you see the hope lies?
Because I think, well, in history, there's no such regime doing such ugly plot. Right? They're so ugly, and well, because they're doing this so ugly and so stupid. That's why we feel hope, and we can carry on. And the whole world is watching, you know.
What do you think of the Hong Kongers, their creativity in expressing themselves, even after the national security law? Are you afraid of the law?
Well, very amazing. First of all, I think they are very amazing. They are very creative. They are always very creative, you know. For myself, of course, I would have nightmare. Like, I woke up at 6 a.m. and then people knocking on my door, and there was national security agents. Knocking on my door. Yeah, of course, I will fear. Everyone has fear in Hong Kong, but I still recall like what Franklin Roosevelt said. You know, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. So that's it. Yeah.
You heard about like the printing shop of the Epoch Times, Hong Kong Epoch Times being vandalized.
Yeah.
In Monday.
Yeah.
And then today is the first time the paper resumed. What do you think of the incidents? And
yeah, they will keep doing this. Yeah.
I mean the floods.
Yeah, they will keep doing this because they cannot. That means they cannot actually punish you by law. So they will keep doing this something disturbance. So, but yes, just carry on. Just do it, and just carry on like Hong Kong people, and we will support you all the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
我去睇。
休停嗰手能打俾我各位嚟，幾多半幾多？
認識佢係大家姐嚟嘅，佢係大家姐嚟嘅。阿珍啦，阿 Luz， 仲有而家過咗美國，阿輝上一次仲有一個過美國嗰個嗰位男士叫咩？阿石生嚟啊，個女14啊，係啊，跟住仲有一個阿 Sir 啊。
I think it's Martini. And he's going into the police van. And people are shouting at oil, encourage him. And it's shame on political suppression. The people are yelling. And they all shout at oil.
Thank you.
And they said like rule of law is dead. So no, that's just tyranny. That's what they're yelling. So he's getting in the car. They're yelling 5 demands. So he just got into the van, and people are trying to get the last last shot of his picture inside the van. And then say Hong Kongers at oil.
On the platform.
The van is coming around toward this way.
謝謝啊，下一場行路，唔該，俾翻個車。記者朋友麻煩上翻行人路。
而家跟前啦。
That's another one. 李卓人。No, that's another 李卓人。李卓人。
加入少少，唔該。Stay on the pavement. You shouldn't put it here. You shouldn't put it here. Okay. Go back to the pavement. Fix it there.
Go through there. Please leave here.
And that's another crowd with Lei Choi-yan coming out. And they are saying there is no thugs, only the tyranny. And they yelled 5 demands, not one less. And Hong Kongers add oil.
His machine, what's screaming, I don't know. Found on the post piece and this one.
我
我喺呢度咧，通過啲I know, yeah. If you want to have a good angle, you think that's best? Yes.
So right now we move a little bit like to the other part of the court. That's where the prison car will come out. So some of them has been in prison or detained without bail. So that probably they will be coming out from this gate.
Almost sound lost all the time.
So we're just waiting here, and hopefully the prisoner will come. They said the prisoner car would come out from here. So waiting here, and so I just maybe have a brief briefing of what happened just then. The day before today's hearing, the Hong Kong marks its first National Security Education Day. The National Security Law was passed on June 30th last year and became effective on July 1st. As a part of the program, schools across the city were mandated to hold events including singing the Chinese national anthem and raising flags, and giant billboards promoting the events are shown across the city. The police held an open day. So, as you have, there are a few of the defendants had came out just then, and then there were when they came out, the people there waiting was shouting, 5 demands, not one less, liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our times, and heaven destroys the CCP. And several people I interviewed here earlier today mentioned that they were very angry at the situation, and it was ridiculous that local veteran Democrats who helped the public evacuate our sentence. Okay, as you can see, the gate are opening up, so the prison car will come out. And then the people are yelling, the brothers get oil, and then take care. And 5 demands, not one less. 5 demands, not one less. Get oil and persist. Hold on. You want to go to, just walk further a little bit to the front. So I think it's not sure if all the defendants has left the court already. But we can recap on the today's sentences. Jimmy Lai was sentenced for 12 months, and Margaret Ng and Albert Howard sentenced to 1 year, as well as with 2 years of probation. And Martin Lee was sentenced to 11 months on probation for 2 years, and others were sentenced between 8 to 10 months. And but it was required that all their sentence be carried out right away. And there are international support comments gathered by the Hong Kong Watch. We got response from Canada, from England, including Chris Patton. And regarding the August 31st, 2019 Assembly case, Lee Cheuk-yan was sentenced to 6 months with 2 months separate from the August 19th Assembly. So his total prison term is 14 months. Young Sum was sentenced to 8 months on probation for a year. Jim Lai's total prison term on sentence of both assemblies amount to 14 months too, similar to Lee Cheuk-yan. And many Hong Kongers came to support. The diplomatic corps in Hong Kong also attend the hearing. Some pro-CCP people are lingered outside of a court building. This is usually what happened when you got major cases going on in the court. And one opened champagne to celebrate after Jimmy Lai was sentence was announced. Hong Kongers shout slogans that challenge the national security law, including 5 demands, not one less: liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our times, haven't destroyed the CCP. The former legislator Emily Lau and Tuen Mun District Councillor Carrie Low both said they would stay and fight for Hong Kong, never give up and never give in, said Emily Lau. In summary, total 10 veteran Hong Kong Democrats were sentenced based on convictions on grounds of unauthorized assemblies on August 18th and August 31st, 2019. Media mogul Jimmy Lai was sentenced to a total prison term of 14 months. Martin Lee was sentenced to 11 months on probation for 2 years. Lee Cheuk-yan was also sentenced to a total of 14 months. Others were sentenced between 8 to 12 months. And Carrie Low said he wouldn't leave Hong Kong. He said, "This is our home, our family. We don't leave here because we stand up here and want to commit more to serve and save Hong Kong." Today is the first day of the Hong Kong Epoch Times print edition after the attack at the print press in an early morning of Monday this week.
包括有歐盟嘅講代表啦，佢有丹麥領事館啦、加拿大領事館啦，有幾個領事館嘅領事都個代表都嚟。
And our other reporter Sarah has reported that many came out to support and buy the Epoch Times this morning. And I know that some of the vendors need papers to be refilled as it's sold out.